Welcome to Future Consideration, SB Nation's NFL Draft Show. I'm joined by Dan Rubenstein. He watches college football.
This is true. That is Matt Ufford. He is our pro guy.
Let's get into this week's mock draft from SB Nation's Mocking the Draft.
Yeah.
Number 1, trading up, the Atlanta Falcons, taking that top pick to get JADEVEON CLOWNEY. I like it.
Love this a lot. Obviously, we've been talking about the Falcons' need at pass rusher. JADEVEON CLOWNEY, the clear number 1 defensive end in this draft. Inside, playing in the South. No brainer.
And I kind of like just having the best player go first overall. That's
I
nice.
like that too. Value, value, value. Number 2, Greg Robinson to the Rams. I think if he's not the best offensive tackle in this draft, he could be arguably the best offensive tackle.
Makes a ton of sense. The NFC West has a lot of pressure coming from front sevens.
Yep.
Invest in a line. Makes perfect sense to me.
Absolutely. The Jaguars with KHALIL Mack, higher than we've seen in these mock drafts so far. But if the Jags aren't in love with the quarterback, by all means, build around that defense. We've talked a lot about Gus Bradley building that defense and being a better defense than people knew the second half of the season.
I like the notion of the Jaguars being a fearsome defensive team if they don't have a quarterback in the draft that they want to get. Sure.
Build the best possible team. Sammy Watkins to Cleveland. I think the value is clear that he is the best receiver in this draft. But Cleveland at 4 with already perhaps a top 3 receiver in the league. Do you like it there?
I find it strange, or at least hard to believe, that both Jacksonville and Cleveland, direly in need of a quarterback, would both say, nah, these guys don't do it for us.
Yeah, unless they're in love with like Jimmy Garoppolo or Derek Carr and feel like they're going to get him. I'm in love with Derek Carr, I say.
Okay.
Sammy Watkins makes sense somewhere in there, but I don't think to Cleveland. Oakland, you love this pick. Johnny Manziel in silver and black.
It might be a terrible decision, but the culture of Oakland Raiders plus Johnny Manziel, it
gives you a reason to watch like that late October Oakland-San Diego game at like 4 Eastern. That's just like, why would you watch like, ooh, something weird
because
could
there
happen
are
with Manziel.
fights going on in the upper deck about
Johnny
what's
Manziel
happening.
playing in an infield, a baseball infield. I like that. And Houston, obviously trading down with Atlanta, grabbing Bortles at 6. Obviously, they're getting a ton. If they're trading the number 1 overall pick, they're getting Atlanta's pick, and they're getting a bunch of picks
Probably
below.
another second-round pick or next year's number 1. Who knows?
So if they can grab what some people feel like is the best quarterback in the draft at 6 and then load up with picks,
I like it.
Feels like a win to me. Minnesota at 8 with Teddy Bridgewater.
This is the best deal the Vikings have gotten in several weeks of us reviewing these mock drafts. And
Mike Zimmer making his comments, not thrilled with Johnny Manziel. So if he has Teddy Bridgewater, who a lot of people, including us, feel is the best pure quarterback in this draft, and can grab him at 8.
Yeah, I find it a little bit hard to believe that he'd fall below both Manziel and Bortles all the way to number 8, but again, great shake for the Vikings here.
Teams value quarterbacks in different ways, and maybe he's just the fit for the Vikings. That would be an enormous, enormous win for the Vikings there.
Let's slide things down a little bit more.
Yes.
KONY, EALY to the Cowboys. I think this is great. We're talking maybe the best pass rusher after CLOWNEY in the draft, going all the way down to the Cowboys, who we'll talk about a little bit later on the show. Enormous need for the Cowboys. Really everywhere on the defensive line for them.
Yeah, KONY, EALY playing on a fast track, athletic, and just like ridiculous, getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's a big win if he's there at 17 for Dallas. I feel like he could be right in there. It's a realistic pick for me.
Yeah.
All right, Kansas City, 21, trading up to grab Brandin Cooks.
Yeah, this is the assumption here being the Eagles picking at 22. The Chiefs fall in love with Cooks and want to get him ahead of the Eagles.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice trade. They're not going to give up a whole lot to move up just 2 spots.
Right.
And we've talked about Cooks before. Really fantastic talent.
And just the pure speed that Kansas City has built up. Jamal Charles, Donnie Avery.
Yep.
Giving Alex Smith weapons makes sense to me because that defense should be healthy and ridiculous this coming year.
And towards the end of the first round, we got the Niners taking Jason VERRETT, quarterback from TCU. Physical, aggressive.
Long-time starter for the Horned Frogs, Yeah,
the Niners, that's a hole in their defense. They've got some serious cuts. Tremaine Brock's going to be locked in at one corner, but Chris Culliver, we don't know what's going on with him.
Future with his discipline, obviously Terrell Brown and Carlos Rogers gone, so that fits an immediate need. Going defensive back last year with Eric Reed. Niners solidifying there in that division seems important.
Not a terrible mock draft, I feel.
No, I like this
one. That is Mocking the Draft's mock draft for this week. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, please. Let's move on.
Let's do that.
Running backs. Give me, Dan, tell me who are the best running backs available in the 2014 draft.
A position whose value has declined in the draft.
2013 was the first year since 1964 no running back selected in the first round.
True. All right. At the top, I have Carlos Hyde just because physically he is a specimen. He is The strength is there, the size is there, the quickness in space. For being a bigger guy is surprisingly good. He's one of those guys that will grind you down over 4 quarters.
As a Northwestern fan, I saw him destroy the Wildcats
last
year.
He is a tank.
And you cannot coach size. That's what NFL teams want, that big running back to take the hits.
If he can keep his weight in check, because with a bigger running back, that's the worry. If he can do that, he is going to injure a lot of people in front sevens.
Number 2, a guy who did a lot of damage in your Pac-12, Bishop Sankey of Washington.
Yes, the leading rusher this past season. Bishop Sankey, a very complete back, very good receiver, all-purpose guy, is very fast, great vision, can see the hole, go through it, the burst is there. He also has the ability to be a workhorse type back. Physically, he has maintained health pretty well.
Seems kind of like a complete package.
Absolutely.
Number 3, someone who had very much a national spotlight, Trey Mason of Auburn.
One of the more patient backs. He's not like a physical specimen in the way that Carlos Hyde is a little bit smaller, but patient, sees holes, gets yards after contact. I love Trey Mason a lot. Is not the most complete running back, needs to take care of the ball a little bit better, but just fantastic.
And I have to wonder how much of it is the Auburn offensive scheme versus his skill.
Yeah, and the offensive line that he had at Auburn was fantastic. Greg Robinson's going to go way ahead of him, and that's not an accident. He was running in light boxes at times, which great. He picked a good school to go to, got lucky with Gus Malzahn coming back. But yes, the system was an advantage for him.
You've got Kadeem Carey of Arizona at 4.
Yes.
Tell me about him.
A lot of people have him falling down sort of off the top 5 in terms of running backs, but he runs so strong and so angry, and the contact that he is able to withstand is impressive. The only thing I worry about with him is he has been so much of a workhorse. Has had so many touches at Arizona. You worry about his durability going forward, but the ability he has as a receiver is off the charts. Love Kadeem Carey.
And 5, Andre Williams of Boston College, who made a late push as a Heisman candidate. Had a fantastic season with BC.
Yeah, all of the yards for BC, and he was a terrific running back. He is strong. The shoulder width is fantastic. All of the physical tools are there.
I love shoulder width.
Love a good shoulder width.
Yeah.
No, but about 5'11", 230. The only real knock on him is his ability to sort of be elusive, dance around, take quick cuts, quick angles. But other than that, he runs strong, and for a guy at that size, his speed is ridiculous.
Seems like a fairly deep draft for running backs, even if it's not a huge priority for teams
Ton of value,
anymore.
3rd, 4th round. There's a lot of guys worth taking.
All right, there you go. Those are the finest running backs in this year's draft, according to Dan Rubenstein. Let us know if you disagree.
Yes, let's move on to the NFC East.
Ooh, let's.
Ooh, this is a dramatic division.
Yeah, let's start with the reigning division champs, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
I think an obvious hole is their secondary.
Yeah.
Patrick Chung and Nate Allen were awful last year.
Where's the ball?
They got rid of Chung. They cut him. They've added Malcolm Jenkins of the Saints. But they still need to bolster a secondary that gave up 4,900 yards through the air, worst in the NFL last year. And cornerback, they've got guys who can play, but no real stars. They signed Nolan Carroll, and he's going to compete with Kerry Williams, Bradley Fletcher, not household names.
Right.
They can do better there.
If they can grab a Darqueze Dennard or maybe a Justin Gilbert falling at the later part of the first rounds, huge value.
Where they're probably going to do instead, though, is another whole wide receiver. They, of course, cut Deshaun Jackson in the biggest NFL story of last week. And also got rid of Jason Avant. And so they've only got really Riley Cooper and
Jeremy Macklin
coming off
returning from
one-year
injury.
deal off the ACL tear. And of course, as you know, being the big Chip Kelly fan that you are, they love to use the 3 wide receiver sets.
Yes, they spread people out. They like to use them in different ways, and receivers have to block. Luckily, this year's draft class, very deep receiver class. They're going to get somebody good.
One last note on the Eagles. As with most teams, they're playing in a 3-4 defense.
Yes.
Outside linebacker depth. Trent Cole not getting any younger.
Right.
Could be a possible cap casualty after this coming
And you
season.
have to build a defense around that scheme change, which they're not all there yet. All right, next, the Dallas Cowboys of Dallas.
Ooh, Jerry World.
So much defense, please.
Worst defense in the NFL in 2013. They need help from top to bottom on that defense, but the secondary probably not the priority. They've invested in that recently.
They've drafted a lot with that secondary.
So we're looking at the front 7, particularly the defensive line. They've lost DeMarcus Ware. They've lost Jason Hatcher. They've lost Jeremiah Ratliff. Anthony Spencer likely to leave. Yes, they've added Jeremy Mincey and Henry Melton, but Melton's coming off the ACL tear. Mincey was cut by the Jaguars last year. Yeah, they could use something to truly anchor a defensive line.
4 games against LaShawn McCoy and Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
They need help up there.
You're going to want to stop those guys. Sean Lee's a good middle linebacker when he's not injured, which is usually doesn't have.
He's bandaged a lot.
Not a lot of talent on either side of him. Ernie Sims, Bruce Carter. Who are these guys?
You're not winning a division emphatically with that front
So
7.
linebacker help is nice. And then maybe with it being a deep draft for wide receivers, maybe look at a replacement for Miles Austin.
Right.
Des Bryant's going to be, 2014 is his last year with the team
Right.
under contract, so
it would be the most Dallas thing in the world for them to draft a receiver right here. Oh, God, in the first round. Oh,
that'd be delightful.
That'd be wonderfully awful.
They've got their needs, for sure.
Yes, all right. The Giants, a team who won a Super Bowl recently and then completely fell off a cliff.
If you talk to any Giants fan or anyone who watched a Giants game, the biggest complaint is our offensive line is terrible.
Yes.
And probably the biggest hole in the offensive line, although there are many, I would say center.
Right.
So, yeah, center, but is that going to be your first round draft pick? Probably
There's
not.
no center value in the first round, right?
Given that Eli Manning has lost his top tight end every year for the last 4 years,
that's rough.
You have to look at maybe Eric Ebron at number 12.
Can we download a plugin for Eli Manning? Maybe can we draft like an interception? Oh, we fixed the interception bug. That's what the big need is there. But yeah, you're right.
But with Eli Manning, with his penchant for overthrowing receivers, a tall guy, a fast guy, a guy who leaps with long arms like Eric Ebron, be a nice, attractive option.
Enormous for New York. Yeah. And finally, the Washington Football Professional Redskins.
The off-season champions.
Yes. So I don't think they need anything. This is the off-season. What would they possibly need?
What jumps out to me is inside linebacker. You need a replacement for London Fletcher, anchor of that defense for so long.
Right. AARP President London Fletcher, that is. Yes, no, they need all the help
So good for so long. And defensive linemen. Their top 3 defensive linemen last year were all in their 30s. Mm-hmm. They signed Jason Hatcher, who guess what, turns 32 this summer, and also was kind of a better fit in a 4-3 than a 3-4.
Right.
So I wouldn't get my hopes up too much on that defensive line if I were a Redskins fan.
The talent level just needs to be up so much. I like Kerrigan, Arakpo's decent enough, but other than that, they need so much up front.
They need some talent on the defense, and then the offensive linemen, they could use a replacement for the subpar Chris Chester at right guard. Mm-hmm. No depth at center.
No.
What team doesn't need offensive line help?
Maybe, and this is a little bit revolutionary, protect RG3's knees. Yeah.
No. I want more naked bootlegs.
No, why?
Those, friends, are your NFC East team needs, and that's another episode of Future Consideration
the whole damn thing
in the can. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.